Good morning, everybody, and I'd like to welcome you to another edition of Coffee and Tea with AARP Connecticut. This bi-weekly virtual conversation series features AARP staff and volunteers and decision makers. In our conversation, we discuss a variety of topics affecting Connecticut's older residents. Today, we are joined by AARP Connecticut volunteer Rik Caron and Connecticut State Senator Paul Formica. Good morning, guys. How are you?
Good morning,
Morning.
John.
Great. So glad that you all both were able to join us today. So, Senator, let me get it kicked off to you first, just because this will be seen by folks statewide, and so there may be some people that don't know your background. So I thought it would be nice to ask you, Senator Formica. You're a businessman and a municipal elected official prior to being a state senator. Can you tell us a little bit more about your background prior to the state senate, in addition to those roles, and what people should know about you and how you come to what helps inform you when you make decisions?
Well, thanks very much, John, for having me, and we appreciate the opportunity to be on and talk to each and every one of you out there. This marks my 30th year as an elected official here in the state of Connecticut. I had 23 years as an elected official in East Lyme. I started with about 8 years on zoning, 8 years on the Board of Finance, and 7 years as the full-time first selectman. I kind of brought a common sense approach, to legislating in a small town. It's a lot different in a municipality than it is in a state level. But I thought I'd try to throw my hat in the ring. In 2014, Senator Stillman was retiring, and, I figured, why not? And I was lucky enough to be elected and to be returned. My background is I have 4 adult children. They help me with my family business that I've owned and operated in East Lyme this is our 38th year.
Wow.
In business there. So, I try to take, and I think I was one of the few people who managed a small business and a municipality during the Great Recession, and we ended up with 2 major hurricanes on top of it. So, I try to bring a practical approach to legislating and try to find common sense solutions, and then try to work a middle ground, because certainly on the municipal level, there shouldn't be really any politics in the decision making, and it's a little different at the state level. But I try to have a conversation with all sides and try to find a solution that best works for the people in the state of Connecticut. I represent the 20th district, which I think is the greatest district in the state. It's a portion of Old Saybrook, Old Lyme, East Lyme, Waterford, New London, a portion of Montville, Basra, and Salem. And it's just been an incredible honor for me to serve, both at the local level and certainly in this way at the state level.
Well, I'll certainly say, Senator, that you definitely brought that same way of approaching things to the state senate. You've always been known as one of the more fair, senators, always willing to listen and work across the aisle and with different interest groups. And I'm pretty familiar with your district. My college roommate at the University of Connecticut was from Basra, so I've spent some time out your neck of the woods every now and again. But we really appreciate that background information. And then Rik Caron, actually from Old Saybrook, one of our great volunteers, and you know him, of course, wants to ask you the next question. And I'm going to turn it over to Rik to ask you probably the next couple of questions.
There you go. Good afternoon, Senator. You are the Assistant Republican Leader and Ranking Member of the Energy and Technology Committees. Can you tell us a little bit about what your roles entail for each of those?
Yeah, interesting that this is my first year as the deputy leader for the Senate Republican Caucus, and we're just kind of getting our arms around what that is. We had a wonderful Senate leader for many, many years, and his assistant, Kevin Whitkos. They did a wonderful job for all the years that I have been there, the first 3 terms. But everybody has a different approach, and Senator Kelly has a different personality, and he and I are trying to kind of put our own stamp on what is going on with the caucus. My job as the second is to try to support the senators, the other 11 senators on the caucus as best I can in terms of, what do they need? How do they need help with getting any bills discussed, or anything they may need help in the district, or whatever I can do to support the senators is first and foremost. Secondly, the staff. We have a wonderful staff at the Senate Republican office, and I'm trying to improve communications with the staff so that everybody gets involved. Because John, as you know, the organization, and Rik, the organization is only as good as its frontline staff that it has. And so we're doing a lot of new things. We're bringing a lot of hopefully seminars and podcasts that we can share with our staff to try to increase their opportunities to kind of up their game a little bit, do a little better, get more involved. And I think that will only help the senators that we serve, and also the people in the state of Connecticut, because everybody will be more informed. And it's a difficult job. There are a lot of hours, as you both know. And now with this Zoom, session that we're doing, it's even crazier. We've had a 12.5 hour, a 15 hour, and there were two that I know of 24-hour Zoom public hearings. Now, can you imagine sitting in your kitchen table at 2 a.m. trying to generate, interest in a conversation at Zoom? So it's been difficult. And then on the, I was co-chair of the Energy and Technology Committee back when the Senate was tied 18-18, as well as the Appropriations Committee. And I've been ranking member on both. And, your listeners may want to know that the chairs are appointed by the majority party. So there's a Democrat chair from the Senate and a Democrat chair from the House, and the ranking members make up the leadership team. So there's a ranking member from the Senate and a ranking member, both Republicans, from the House. And the four leaders get together and have a conversation about what bills are brought forward and the management of the committee and how things are done. And quite frankly, that varies with the personalities of the chair and the makeup of the committee and the politics that are included. And some work very well in a bipartisan manner, some don't. Now, I'm fortunate that on the Energy Committee, I've had some wonderful chairs going back to the great Lonnie Reed. John, you may remember, she was just a wonderful chair, House chair. Gary Winfield and Paul Doyle. And then now, we have Norm Needleman from the Senate and Dave Arconti. Both just do a wonderful job, and everything is pretty much bipartisan moving through there. So, it's been a very good experience for me, and I think we've moved the state forward in terms of opportunities to improve electric service and availability, and the costs seem to get away from us a little bit sometimes, but John, what it's about, we're trying hard to rein in the utilities, and as Lonnie Reed once said, we got to go to utilities 2.0. We have to, what is the next model that works? Because we've operated the same way for decades, and now we're in a new digital age. We're in a new way of doing business. People are now at home. There's more demands on internet and electricity. So we need to kind of figure out how everybody fits into that, and that's what we've been trying to do.
Well, and that's great. And Rik, before you go, I did want to just chime in. We are going to be having Senator Kelly on as well as the Republican leader, and we have a long history of working on issues with Senator Kelly as his time as chair and ranking member of the Aging Committee, and obviously we've worked with you on those issues as well. So, and I will definitely say the Energy Committee over the years has been probably the most bipartisan or nonpartisan committee. You all kind of get together and always try to do what you think is best in the interest of ratepayers, and whether it's electricity or gas or phone service and stuff. So I will say that it's always a pleasure to be able to work on that committee, because there are issues that are really critical, impact everybody. And it is such a great committee in that there is a lot of bipartisanship. I didn't mean to interrupt you, Rik, but go ahead.
No, that's good. And I was just going to, on this last topic, commend you, Senator, for, with the decades of experience that you've had, to be a good leader and look to, your objective is to bring everybody together and come up with some good results in the end that will, hopefully benefit, the population at large. And I think that's key. So again, I commend you and applaud you on your spirit in trying to work to get results. That said, you're well aware that AARP follows issues affecting Connecticut residents related to utilities and energy. Topic very familiar. We've had conversations on this in the past. What do you see as the major issues that the Energy and Technology Committee of the legislature will be working on in this current year, 2021?
Well, we started way back in September with the special session, that we got together and passed a bill trying to rein in the utilities a little bit, and talked about their rate hikes and talked about their performance. And we shifted to a performance-based module that they have to now adhere to for rate increases. Just like, when I go to work every day, if I don't perform, I don't get a rate increase. And, if we don't perform and as legislators, we hear about it certainly at the ballot box. So there's no reason why the utilities can't also work on a performance-based metric. So that's important. And that was an important bill that we put forward. Also, the opportunity for PURA, for example, that came out just this past week and said, utilities could have done a better job during that storm we had last summer. And so what we want to also do is make sure that regulator, the PURA commissioner, she has done such a wonderful job, I think, with that agency. We need to, I think, give her the tools to succeed, give that commission the tools to succeed, and kind of separate it out a little bit and have them be their own branch of government, so that they're not influenced by anybody over at DEEP or anywhere else. They can focus on, regulating what they're supposed to regulate. So we think that that's an important initiative. We have great work ahead trying to shift from, natural gas and fossil fuels to renewable energy sources. And the next generation of that is going to be battery storage. And how do we incentivize battery storage to make it practical and affordable and realistic for both the large utilities to take advantage of it, but perhaps each and every one of us in our home or a municipality or in a small business. That's going to be the future. So we're working on those issues, and we think those are all important issues to move forward. And, John, you and I had a long conversation about protecting our baseload nuclear, which I believe gave us the opportunity to start thinking about the next generation of energy generation, because natural gas isn't going to be here forever. You already heard about the new Biden administration talking about restricting the fracking and natural gas mining, if you will, and that's what's caused the price to come way down. So we have to prepare for alternate forms of energy when both nuclear goes away and natural gas goes away. What are we going to do? And that's a big conversation, and it takes a long time to develop new energy sources. It's a very complicated committee. So hopefully we'll begin those conversations, and we have some good bills coming out, I think, that will start that.
And Senator, your district, ironically, is like right in the heart of all of these discussions, because you have the nuclear power plant in your district. You're dealing with the offshore wind down your neck of the woods, and so these are all kind of in the forefront of the debate about what our future is going to look like. So I guess we've got the right man on the job for those issues. So
well, if I knew what I was getting myself into, I wasn't sure. I figured. They ask you when you first get elected, what committees do you want to be on? So I said, well, I better try to be on energy. I don't know anything about it, but I better try to be on that. And I think I asked for public safety because one of my duties as first selectman was administrative chief of police. And then I asked for transportation because of I-95 and then appropriations, because as a first selectman, we did 7 balanced budgets with a surplus for the 7 years we were there. And I got energy and appropriations, and I think I had 1 term on public safety, but oh my word, I couldn't believe how much there is to energy. And, it's crazy, but
you get to make some good friends too, Senator.
Yeah, that's right. Exactly. We did. And offshore wind is really the next generation of what's going to happen. It's been so successful in Europe that I think it's really going to have the opportunity to provide a replacement for a lot of these, energy sources we've grown on. We've seen, just in the time I've been in the legislature, coal has gone from being a pretty major source of energy to almost nothing now. And, so things change quickly.
Great. Rik, why don't you go ahead?
Okay. AARP has honored you in the past. We give you and we recognize you very much for your work with us on banning variable rate third-party electric contracts. We hear from folks that think there still needs to be much more reform put in place. What do you think can be done to further rein in the bad practices of some of the third-party suppliers?
And Senator, I will mention Rik is one of our volunteers that does our What You Need to Know About Your Electric Choice program. So he goes out and makes presentations to help people navigate the market. It's one of the, we don't commentate on it. We just try to help people understand it, determine whether it's right for them or not. So Rik's one of our key guys. I thought I'd just fill you in on that too.
Thank you, John. Yeah, and people really don't understand. They get the bill each month. They look at how much they're going to need to pay, and they don't really pay attention to some of the critical items in it. So we just keep getting the message out to folks.
Now you've added the generation. When we went to deregulation, I don't know how many years ago that was, 15, 20 years ago.
About 20, yeah.
That meant the utilities can't own and generate their own power. They had to buy it and move it. So now there's a transmission charge, and you have a generation charge and a transmission charge, and sometimes you use very little energy. I'm sure some of the people on this listening today, probably use almost no energy, but they have this huge transmission cost. So, one of the bills we're trying to do is to move more transparency in how the utilities bill. I mean, we need to understand what's driving this stuff. Certainly with the third-party electric suppliers, I remember, John, when you surprised me with that great honor. I still have that silver cup in my office in Hartford, and I appreciate that very much from AARP. And we went into Senator Looney's office. It was I was a new legislator, and here I was in the Senate President's office getting this nice award. It was great, and I appreciate it. And we did work to rein in a little bit of the abuses from those third party, especially the variable rate. But we have another bill this time, 6526, which will take it at the next step and to kind of ban variable rates within those contracts. And I think that that's an important thing because, all of a sudden they're getting renewed and who pays attention to, when those contracts are renewed, unless you're really a student of these things and you're kind of playing the electric market, you don't know. So hopefully the bill gets passed. It'll prohibit early termination fees, and we'll be able to notify customers well in advance of increases of more than 25%, and then make brokers subject to the same marketing standards than any other marketing vendor. So there's a lot of controls in there that I think take it to the next level. John, I think you and you've been lobbying for that language too. You've worked awful hard on trying to shape that legislation. So, hopefully, that got out of committee, and hopefully it'll pass, the Senate and the House, and the governor will sign it.
We appreciate that, and there are a lot of good things in there. You certainly highlighted the most important stuff, and I always appreciated your bringing this issue to the forefront and working with us on it, and hopefully we can get that and move that along a little further. So let me go on to another topic. COVID-19, the pandemic, right? I mean, you know as much as anybody about the impacts of that, running a small business, working in the legislature. It's really shown how much people are relying on high-speed internet and some of the deficiencies we have here in Connecticut with regards to that. Our folks rely on high-speed internet for telehealth, virtual visitations with their loved ones or folks in a residential care facility. It's important for job growth. It's important for the kids with remote learning. So what do you think we can do to address this problem this year, now that we kind of become so reliant on it more than ever, really exacerbated by the pandemic?
Well, everything, we're sitting, I'm sitting in my home, now doing this interview, and more and more and more we're communicating this way. We're now shopping this way. So it's more and more important to make sure that everyone has access to the internet, and we're working hard to make sure that happens. But there are a couple of problems that really are at the forefront. One is access. Is there going to be an opportunity to put a fiber optic line or another kind of line in front of everybody's house? And certainly in densely populated areas, that's a whole heck of a lot easier than if you're out in the northwest or northeast hills somewhere, and you might be one of 2 or 3 houses 4 miles down the end of a long road, and it just doesn't pay for these internet providers to dig a trench and run the wires and do all that, so that they can make sure we have access. So that's one of the problems. That's an access problem. The other is adoption. And you go back to the densely populated areas that already have the lines in front of their house, and all you have to do is sign up. Well, the adoption problem means I'm not hooked in. And why am I not hooked in? Maybe I can't afford to be hooked in. Maybe I don't understand how to be hooked in. Maybe, I'm not familiar with the whole process. So there's a whole lot of education we have to do around the adoption issue. And I believe there's 70 or 75% of people are connected to the internet that is available to them. Most of the people that are not, it's either an affordable issue or a technical issue. And so one of the things that we may want to look at when this federal stimulus money comes in, perhaps there's a way to provide access to those remote areas using this federal stimulus money, because it's a one-time, infusion of dollars that we're going to get. And perhaps the other way is to help with the adoption issue and say, maybe we can work with the internet service providers and say, create a small basic package for just a few dollars a month that maybe the state can help with, or, we can incentivize those providers, those internet provider companies, to do that and encourage more people to get on the internet. So,
Sure.
There's a balance, and
Right.
The governor has a bill right now that's very controversial, that's going to force the internet providers to put infrastructure in everywhere, and I'm not sure that that's quite the answer. I think working with the internet providers and the administration and the legislature to try to find the best and most affordable fix is probably going to be what's going to happen.
Right. Public-private partnership is kind of something we encourage, and hopefully we can get to the that lack of like you just said, affordability in some areas, access in other areas, and hopefully we can solve the problem, because really, our folks, particularly when virtual visitation was shut down, or visitation was shut down at nursing homes, for example, and then our folks, there were so many people that were not only physically shut off, but even visually shut off from folks because of lack of access. So we hopefully can get somewhere on this with everybody working together. So
well,
let me
I know, John, I know we're talking and working on that isolation issue with nursing homes and other assisted living facilities, because the isolation was almost as bad as whatever ailment people had that brought them to the nursing home. And I think it might have been even worse sometimes, not being able to see your relatives and see a friendly face for a long time, and to be in an institution like there's as good of care as nursing homes can provide. And it's a very difficult situation, especially with this pandemic, you need to see people. And, we're social beings, and we, people thrive on other people, and you can't just be in confinement like that. So, we have to, there's another bill in, that will address that issue. And so hopefully we'll be able to get to the bottom of that. So if this ever happens again, people will be able to have their own laptop or iPad or iPhone or some kind of communication device where at least they can connect with people, from the nursing home.
So the next question, Senator, I'm going to ask, and then Rik has one final one, and then anything you want to say. But you mentioned a few times, the work you did with the Take Back Your Grid Act on the performance of the utilities during the storm, and you guys passed that legislation and a lot of good things in it last summer. Recently, PURA has said their performance was really bad during that storm. And then even more recently, Eversource has gone in and asked for a rate hike that was basically put on hold by PURA over the summer. And I know you were quoted in the paper on that. And so I just wanted to get your thoughts about the rate increase that Eversource has gone in for. And what do you think about that? And what do you think the prognosis is there?
Yeah, it's so difficult because, everybody saw either out in front of their house or on television news, trees just fall all over the place, and trees are growing and they fall on wires, and the wires can't survive that, and so it's a big problem. We have to balance, what can we do to make the lines as secure as possible, and make sure that they don't get have every tree that happens, to be over them just fall down. But you can't just cut every tree down. So there's got to be, again, you got to work with people. You got to communicate. I think there's a bill going through now that will provide for any major electric lines, the utility can trim the trees that are near the major electric line. And that is a line that might serve, multiple hundreds or thousands of people if that line went down. And it's kind of the main line. So, we kind of want to see if there's a balance that they can do and blend that with, you don't want anybody to go to somebody's front lawn and start cutting all their trees down.
Right.
Right. That's the way. So you talked about a rate increase. The four leaders of the Energy Committee, myself and, Needleman and Arconte and Ferraro, we wrote the letter to PURA and said, you need to suspend this rate increase until we find out what's going on. That was back in June or July. And then we had the special session that you referred to, the Take Back the Grid Act, where we moved the utilities' opportunity for a rate increase had to be tied to performance. And once PURA gets done with that, I think it will make it a lot easier to understand from the utility why they need it. I remember back that I mentioned earlier when I was first selectman, we had those two hurricanes and East Lyme was out of power for, a week or more. And it was very difficult to communicate with Eversource. They had very little communication with the communities that they serve. They offered to be better than that. They offered to do a new online software system that would get more communication out to their customers and their clients and the residents and they just failed to do that. And so one of the things that we have to have is a clear accounting for every dollar that they've spent on these issues: vegetation management with trees, communication management, how many crews they're bringing in, how they're utilizing those crews. This is a publicly regulated utility that is guaranteed, a certain level of income. And if they're gonna be allowed to have that, then they got to do a better job, and their management's got to be better. In no way am I criticizing the great linemen and women who are out there in incredibly difficult conditions trying to keep us in power. But they need direction and they need management and they need to know where to go. And if there's not communication and coordination, then that just makes their life a lot more difficult. And consequently, you and I and the people listening are end up being out of power for longer than we need to be.
Right. Well, we appreciate that, and thanks for fighting for us on that one. Hey, Rik, why don't you give us the last question, and then we'll close it out. I know the senator's got a lot to do.
Okay, perfect. Senator, while COVID has changed substantially the way the legislator is able to function, and rightly so, we're seeking to see what you would suggest that our viewers do if they want to get involved in legislation and participate in the process.
Well, thank you very much, first of all. Thank you for having me today. But, you know, we serve and do the people's business in the people's house. And the people's house is the Capitol. And we need to open that as soon as we can. The governor has opened up, you know, restaurants and museums and churches and stores. And, you know, we've all been in grocery stores or hardware stores or lumber stores and seen the crowds and crowds of people that are there. So I think we have to have some availability for people to access the Capitol when we're doing business. And we mentioned a little earlier about 24-hour Zoom meetings and public hearings that were just stopped at the end of, you know, the majority party stopped it at 24 hours. And in one case, there were 1,900 people signed up to speak. And they went 24 hours in a public health committee. And I think only 250 or so people got to speak, and the rest just were never heard. So I think we need to find a way to be better at that. You know, John, your job is to go up and push for your members, which you do an incredible job each and every day up there in the Capitol, but you need to talk to people. And, you know, all of the lobbyists up there, you know, bring a level of information on particular issues, on companies, on bills, that the legislators count on for information. Now, you and I may not always agree, but at least you and I always agree to disagree if we do that and not be disagreeable.
Sure.
And that's the name of the game. So it's information sharing. So I'd like to see part of that happen, and certainly everybody is up there, all of the people listening. I'm happy to have you up and show you around the Capitol when it's safe to do so and you feel like you want to come see it. It's the greatest place in Connecticut. But for now, you know, you can access on Zoom. You go to the CGA website at cga.ct.gov, and you can find the schedule of daily events, and you can click on those events and it'll tell you the Transportation Committee's meeting today, for example. Here's the agenda. You can click on that. It will show you all the bills that they're going to discuss. You can click on an individual bill and it will bring up the language if you're that interested. And then, you know, you can either write to me or write to the legislators that are on the particular committee of interest. Or, John, I'm sure you have a way to communicate with all your folks, because you certainly do a very good job communicating with us and expressing their interests on, you know, on their behalf. So, but you have to get involved. My website is senatorformica.com. You can sign up for my emails. I'm trying to shift everybody over to electronic newsletters and things, but we still send out a paper, you know, notification every 6 or 8 weeks, I believe it is. And but I'm trying to save the state money on postage, so sign up and we'll send it to you electronically. But call me anytime. My phone number is on that website. I'm happy to give anybody a call back and talk about any issues that you might have. And if I don't have the information, if it's not on a committee that I'm on or something I just don't know about, but we have a great research staff in Senate Republicans, and we can find out the information and get back to you.
Well, that's great, Senator, and you know, we'll make sure everybody has that information. And it's really been great speaking with you this morning and making yourself available. We know there's so much going on. You have a lot of meetings, a lot of hearings, and a lot of added responsibility being the deputy leader. Anything else you want to tell our viewers, listeners, before we close it out?
No, just thank you very much, John. Thank you for all your hard work. Rik, your advocacy and your volunteerism is really what makes this state great. And whether it's on a small town level or on the state level, you know, get involved. There's a lot of different thoughts going out and around today. So don't be afraid to share yours. Share your ideas and help us to understand what it is you want, because we serve you. I represent you. That doesn't mean I go up there and it's all Formica's ideas. I represent you that live in the great 20th district and around the state. And the better communication we have, the better off we are. But most people up there work awful hard and want to do the right thing. And it's just been a wonderful experience, and I appreciate the opportunity to serve as a senator. I never thought in my life I would be able to do this, and I appreciate the opportunity to always talk with you and Rik today and everybody listening. So thank you.
Thank you, Senator. I know our
And
members appreciated it, and Rik, I want to thank you as well. We're really coming up on our time here, so I want to thank both of our guests today, Rik Caron, advocacy volunteer with AARP, State Senator Paul Formica, and all of you for joining us. And that will conclude another edition of Coffee and Tea with AARP.